So I want to share with you today some great tips about business plans. Now, don't switch off just yet, just in case that's giving you the heebie-jeebies. I've been talking to loads of people recently about the need for a business plan in a small business and whether, a typical 1 to 10 person business, does a business plan really relate to that size of business? Is it actually relevant and a good use of time, or is it just corporate bull and, spending time on something that's going to get shoved in that bottom drawer, never to be seen again? But then also the big question comes that even if you love the idea of a plan and even if you're good at putting plans together, very often it's much easier to actually create the plan than it is to stick to it, to follow it and make it real. So I want to share tips with you about all of that today. So first off, are business plans relevant to small businesses? And my answer is absolutely yes, they are. They don't need to be the big, complex, tricky, spreadsheet-filled things that a bank would like. They don't need to be anything like that. They can be very short, very sweet, straight to the point. Yes, if you want to go and borrow money from the bank, then you will need to put together a really comprehensive plan. But if you're not doing that, then actually this plan is for you. It doesn't have to be for the bank or for anybody else. This is just for you, so you can make it clear, simple, real and accessible. So that's the first thing. It doesn't have to be massive. It can be one page. A one-page plan is absolutely brilliant in my opinion. Okay, so the first thing to think about is if you're going to make this happen, then you have to set aside clear time to work on this. Because if you don't do that, it's going straight back into that big pile of things you really wish you could get round to. What you have got to bear in mind is that this plan is the pivot. This is the crux of you growing your business over the next few months. Without the plan, you're kind of like a jellyfish just being, manipulated by the ocean. You're being forced around by the tidal waves around you. Whereas this plan is actually going to give you focus and direction. So it's really important to you and your business. And that means it needs some very specific time spending on it. Now, I would recommend that you block out an absolute minimum of 3 hours to work on your plan. Ideally, I would honestly say block out a whole day if you can. It might even help you to go and work somewhere different, go and find a nice hotel, go and find a nice cafe that's got views of the countryside or something like that. Whatever actually stimulates you and really motivates you into action. If you need to change that environment, that's a great way to actually get yourself really motivated to do this. So set aside that time first off to make this happen. Now, the second thing is to think about what should be the duration of your business plan. Is this a 12-month plan? Is it a 5-year plan, a 3-year plan? Now, my honest advice is actually to make it a 3-month plan. The perfect scenario for me is that you have 12-month goals, you have 3-year kind of big picture. This is where I want to be in 3 years, but it's so far ahead. And kind of so unreal, it's so difficult to make that feel real that actually trying to really pin down specific goals and targets for 3 years or 5 years, that can just be overwhelming in itself. So it's great to have at least a picture. This is what I want the business to look like. This is what I want my life to look like. This is what I want my week to look like in 3 to 5 years' time. But you don't have to stress about the detail of that at all. So big picture, great to have. 12-month goals and targets are really good to have because that's now giving you some concrete direction. You can see specifically where it is that you want to go in 12 months. But again, in a small business, 12 months is actually a huge amount of time. So to try and map that out in detail is really something that can very much tie you in knots. So I would honestly say 12-month targets and a more detailed 3-month plan. That's the type of thing that will actually keep you on track. It will then feel current and real and genuine for you. It's something that actually drives your decisions daily and weekly in the business. So that's my next tip. Big picture, great. 12-month number targets or very clear milestones, and 3-month action, so you know exactly what you're going to do in those 3 months. Now, in terms of the level of detail for those actions, this is where it's very, very easy to get yourself hugely bogged down. But you don't need to do that. So, for instance, if one of your actions is, let's say, to develop a clear social media strategy, let's say, for instance, that you're winging it at the moment and you'd like to have a clear strategy in place, your business plan or action plan doesn't need to include the detail of that strategy. All it needs to include is an action and a deadline for when you're going to actually write that strategy, when you're going to create it. So your plan includes those headline actions, but it doesn't have to include all that detail. That's another way that you can get really bogged down with it. So in terms of how ambitious your targets should be, my advice on that is to actually really understand yourself. So I have clients who love massive targets, really big, scary targets, and that hugely motivates them. Whereas other clients, if they set targets that big, that just sends them into an instant overwhelm and total fear about how on earth they're ever going to do it. So for some people, slightly more gentle, achievable targets are the right way to go. For other people, crazy, really ambitious targets are the way to go. For the majority of people, I would honestly say that somewhere in the middle is the right place. Because actually, if your targets are too achievable, then they're not really that motivational. So aim to be stretching yourself at least a little bit with your targets. Now, in terms of the nitty-gritty about how to put your plan together, my advice would be to get yourself a great big table. Always have a big workspace for this. And either have a page of your notebook or a separate piece of paper. A3 paper is even better. But have a separate page for each of the key areas of your business. So some of the big things that should definitely come in there are finances, marketing, sales, systems, and anything you need to improve around that. You might also then put in things like organisation and time management. You might put in delivery of customer service. You might put in product development if that's where you're at. So think about the really big headline areas of your business, those areas where you can make a really significant difference. And then just brainstorm, literally. So a headline that says marketing, brainstorm everything that you'd love to do about marketing. Do that for each of those topics and then bring it back and look at what's genuinely achievable in the next 3 months. Not what you'd love to get done, because that will be absolutely everything on those lists, but what's genuinely achievable in the next 3 months. And I promise you, the first time you do this, what you put on that plan will be at least 6 months worth of work, because we're so eager to get stuff done and so optimistic about how much time and capacity we've got, when really we haven't. So strip it back and then just make it the most important headlines and actions for you. And bear in mind that if you do this as a 3-month plan, then you will have 4 of these plans over the year. So you don't have to pack everything into plan number 1. Make it clear, keep it simple, make it achievable, and don't get too bogged down with the detail. And then there's two key things that you really need to do if you're going to actually make this happen. If you are going to follow the plan, stick to it and make this stuff happen, the 2 things you need to do are, firstly, keep this plan somewhere visible, keep it to hand. If it goes up on your office wall, then that's absolutely perfect. If you don't have that kind of environment, then keep it somewhere on your desk, in your notebook, somewhere like that, where you're going to see it and refer to it very, very regularly. This is not something to shove in your bottom drawer, never to be seen again. And then the final thing is to book specific chunks of time into your diary every single week for you to go back, look at that plan, review how well you've done this week and exactly what you need to do next week to keep you on track with that plan. You've got to bear in mind that growing your business and following this plan is about building the business and creating the lifestyle that you want, but it's also about giving you the capacity to deliver the best service to the most number of people that you can service as a business. So it's actually in your customers' best interests for you to dedicate this time to you and your business. So there's a whole selection of tips on how to build a business plan. If you'd like to know more, then get in touch and I can talk to you about that, give you some advice, or come and ask me about my free business planning workshops. Next one's coming up 7th of June. And I would love to hear from you in the comments or reply to the email. Let me know what you thought of this video, if there's anything in particular that resonates with you, or even if there's something that raises extra questions that you'd love for me to also issue some tips about. So fab, have an amazing week everybody. I'll speak to you soon.